No, I've been what do you call it in the I've been working on the MSLAs and putting magnetic beds on them today, and then about to be in the shop. And then it's just hot here. I duct taped all the ceilings, the vents closed in the printing room. But
Nice.
yeah.
So
Hey, I'm saying this to you. I'm sending one of these to y'all. I'm sending it to Drew. So when y'all do y'all things, it's one of the Elmos. So I got a bunch of them a while back, and they're like my favorite thing. But when you're doing demos, they work as a webcam.
oh yeah,
Also,
like a document camera.
yeah, but and they work, and so they have USB and SD, so you can take shots and all that stuff. But man, they can zoom in so tight.
That's awesome. Yeah, my wife has one of those at her school or in her classroom.
Yeah, they're like my new favorite toy, and this one's got the like the digital screen on it, the LCD on it, and everything else too.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, so I'm gonna send one to y'all. Y'all can use it for doing it when he's trying to do the 3D printer tutorials and show him how to unjam extruders and stuff. I finally cleaned my 3D printing room.
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
All right, looks like we got people trickling in. So if anyone has a CNC related question with a M2 Jumpstart, anything that they're working on, feel free to go ahead and get us kicked off here.
Hey, on the so on that thing you were texting me last night, is that a new Makerverse update, or has that been pushed yet?
That one has not been pushed yet. I have to do a couple things in closing to get it ready, but then it'll be in a pre-release state. So there is a new pre-release that was built yesterday for Makerverse that added some additional support in laser. So we have the laser widget with the on-off switch that toggles the 32 value on the Gerbil control. And then the new pre-release fully enables all of the live power control as well as the laser test capability. So now in that new pre-release, you have the ability to set a power and a duration for a test, and then you can press test laser, and then it will it'll issue a command, a laser on command for whatever duration that you set. And there's also a power control section in the laser widget. So say you're running, somebody gave you some G code, and you really want to use it for running a project, but they have it set at 100% power and it's like a 5-hour cut or something. You can go into power control and you can scale it to 90% using the laser widget, and it will override the power control that is in the G.
Are you have the ability to override the speed control for that G code for if they were to do a laser project like that too, or just the power right now?
Yeah, we're working on speed overrides for version 2 of Makerverse in CNC. One of the things that we're just trying to figure out how to document it properly is that the firmware itself has a hard limit at 1,000 millimeters per minute. So when we do like the live override, we want to make sure that we're properly referencing current speed and not giving the user the unrealistic expectation that they could crank it up to 2,000 and actually have an impact on the machine.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, it'd be nice having a 32 value in there though, because sometimes that's having issues with that 32 value. So I was just going in the console and manually putting 32 value in. So for the laser, that'll be nice. because I was getting with the G code I was outputting from Lightburn wasn't always wasn't putting the 32 value in there.
Yeah. Awesome. Cheryl, I see the.
Hello.
How are you?
We're doing good. We just set up our M2 a while ago, but we haven't used it because we've had issues, which is fine. I put a ticket in with Mark and had Mark just technical support with me because it wouldn't connect last week. He was able to help me on Memorial Day Friday, and he was really helpful and got me back on. And we got it connected up. And yesterday, was it yesterday? No, the day before. I was running the program you see on the board. Maybe you see on the board. Hold on. We'll move it. We were cutting this little guy here. And then the last one, you see how that error is there as it goes down into the wood here? That's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to look like that. And since this is my third cut, I still haven't poked through yet, which is fine. That's just a depth issue. But when I went to fix this, it won't go home again. So we took it home, and we one of the problems I had with Mike, was it was inverted. And so I went to fix the inversion, and it keeps giving me soft code limit error 9 when I tried to zero it out.
Okay. Now, when you were inverted, was it up and down were flipped or left and right?
It's the Z-axis is off.
Oh,
X
the
and
Z-axis was inverted.
Right. The X and Y axis always are fine. It's the Z that seems to be the problem. And it's it's either putting the drill bit, it's gouging it into the wood and dragging it like it did that last cut there that you saw, or it's just giving us a soft limit and won't let us
Okay.
And then when I switch it, it does the same thing. It's continually inverting the setup, and I don't know why.
What are you using for G-code creation?
Easel
Okay.
Easel Pro.
All right. So that'll still give you a positive plunge value.
Okay.
We may need to do some more diagnostics on that Z-axis control itself. What version of MakerVerse are you on? 1.1.2?
I'm on the latest one, yeah, because I just reinstalled it again yesterday. I went ahead and thought, okay, it's a brand new computer, laptop. It's a brand new CNC machine, and we have an Orturo laser, Orturo laser, ORTUR laser.
Yep.
And we got a little one, and we did have the problem. Now it runs great with the Orturo, no problem, any port. And I know that the X2 is Mike said it was very sensitive about which port it goes in and only use it for that. So it has its dedicated port, which is port 3. But it's still, sometimes it won't connect. Sometimes it will connect. Sometimes I don't get the sound to turn on of the hum of the machine.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure
that'll be a
what's
USB.
going on. We've replaced the data cord because we thought, okay, that's the first thing to do.
And is this a Windows machine?
Yes, it's Windows 10.
Okay, so Windows is really finicky about COM port assignments. So
Okay.
one of the things that I'm working on right now is an update to MakerVerse that will allow you to update the port.
That would be good.
So that's something that I'm finishing out today.
Cool.
And we're actually going to do some testing with it this afternoon.
Excellent.
So
that sounds
that
great.
will help you. As far as your Z-axis issues, my first guess is that the Z scale is not calibrated to enough to where when you're making like 1 and 2 millimeter kind of traversals, that
It was at 3.6% for accuracy on the calibration.
for the Z-axis.
For the whole calibration, didn't say individual ones.
Okay. Yeah, it may be something that, or you may have, so there's little grub screws on the Z-axis. So
Right.
you have your lead screw that's in the middle.
Yes.
Then there are some little grub screws that hold that down into the bearing blocks. And we have seen paths where one of those little grub screws will get, you know, a little loose, and it'll allow that lead screw to have a little bit of play to where,
Okay, so something might be a little slightly off then.
correct. And
Okay,
then
I'll have my husband check those.
okay.
He'll
All
do
right.
that right now.
Yeah, I think the next thing that I would look at of potentially being suspect would be just maybe the Z-axis motor itself.
Okay.
And I would need to be kind of really just try to replicate your issue.
Sure.
Is you're on here?
Yes.
Are there any follow-ups from your previous session that you have, or do you feel like this would be something that would be more of a one-on-one breakout to effectively solve this?
We can do another one-on-one.
Okay. The grub screws are tight.
Okay.
Yep.
So I will go ahead. I'll let Mike get with you on that
Okay.
to get something scheduled.
Okay, do you want me to fill out another ticket for him? A support ticket?
Yes, that'd be perfect. And then one.
Okay, I'll fill out a support ticket and we'll deal with it with one-on-one. Thank you so much for your help. I really appreciate it.
Of course. What's your time zone?
We're Pacific. We're in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Awesome. Oh, that's right. Okay, now I remember.
Yeah,
now
that's
I
me.
remember. All right.
All right, I'll set up a
Go ahead and
ticket.
submit me a support ticket, and I'll do my best to get you going.
Thank you so much. I will do so right now. Thank you. I will flow back in the background and watch the rest of the conversation. Thank you so much.
Of course. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
So this is Dustin. I have a question.
Go ahead, Dustin.
All right. I put a post up in the Facebook and also in the Fresh Desk discussion board. I'm noticing that the bit in my router is not centered left to right in the clamp. And the more I look at the clamp, the more I'm noticing there's a gap kind of on either side of my router where it allows the router to kind of move back and forth side to side, but I don't have any play in the front to back. And every
which
time
router are you using?
I'm using the DeWalt 611.
Okay. And it'll wobble while the clamp is tightened.
No, once it's tightened, it doesn't move at all. But anytime I'm taking it in and out to change a bit or anything like that, I mean, there is a lot of play back and forth. Once I tighten it down, it stays nice and tight, but it doesn't center that bit. I've measured it both with calipers, and I've done a little drawing on a board and found the center on that circle from the center of the router, the sled, and I'm always off just maybe like a millimeter left to right. Front to back is fine, but I can't get it to be centered left to right.
Okay. So let's see, Casey's not in here today. I don't know if you have access to a 3D printer or not, but we have an alignment jig that we have the STL for that goes in that center hole in your sled. And it has
Okay.
a little hole that your bit can go down into, and then it'll help align everything perfectly straight as you're tightening that that router clamp to keep it from having any angle to it while you're putting it in there.
Okay. I'm looking on the Facebook. Is that in the file section?
I think it's on the
It's actually on
website
the- on the
under the
website.
marketplace.
Under the marketplace. Okay.
Hey, Dustin,
Yeah.
you can also cut your own centering jig if you want. I just cut this out of 3/4 inch plywood, and I've got one here. It's a 3-inch circle with a hole drilled in the middle, and I did that on the M2.
Okay.
I have that one for an 1/8 inch bit, and this one for a 1/4 inch bit. So,
Okay.
I mean, if you don't have a 3D printer, I don't. So I just cut them out on the CNC. After I got it adequately, calibrated and stuff, I got nice round circles, and then I cut out a centering jig.
See, that's the reason y'all need a 3D printer, because y'all can print out whatever y'all want. Seriously.
Well, okay. So, I mean, I got my whole board calibrated down to like 1.8 millimeters for accuracy across the whole thing. And I was like, that's great. But I'm noticing that router is a little bit off. I'm also running into an issue that anywhere between 10 millimeters and 12 millimeter depth, when I'm cutting, it's catching a corner, or on a curve, it's catching a curve and it's biting into it, and then it's hitting really hard. So I don't know how to get past. I've only done that twice now because I was starting to get concerned maybe the router is the issue. Anybody else having that problem?
No, I mean, every now and then I'll get a jagged edge when it's doing a deep cut. I just smooth them out with sandpaper when I'm done, I guess. But if you're not cutting all the way through, that's obviously harder. So I don't know. Is your bit nice and sharp, and your
Yeah, they're brand new, straight from the factory.
Sure.
They've only been used a couple times now.
Sure.
But yeah, it's the first time I cut it, I got about 12.5 millimeters deep. I was cutting all the way through a 1-inch board, and it hit an edge as it was going around a curve, and it bounced off of the inside and hit the outside and bucked pretty badly. And I stopped there.
Mhm.
I tried a different cut that didn't have any curves in it. It was just a straight corner, and it caught the corner as it was going around that corner, and bit both into the corner itself and on the outside edge. And again, bucked right then. And I stopped it there as well. And that was around just under 11 millimeters.
What kind of wood were you using?
It is red oak.
Did you hit a knot or anything? I mean, was it a?
Nope, it's a straight grain right through there.
Okay.
I didn't-
I don't know.
The depth that I'm cutting is it's on a 1/4 inch bit. I'm cutting a 1/16 of an inch at a time, and I'm moving at around 20 inches per minute.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah, I was trying to go nice and slow so I wouldn't try to drag it or anything like that. I wanted to make sure I wasn't putting too much material through that bit.
Yeah. No, it sounds good to me. I've gone faster and deeper on stuff and gotten pretty nice cuts, but I guess I haven't been cutting red oak or any oak all the way through. I've engraved signs on oak with a dish bit, but I
Okay.
haven't done any all the way all the way cutting through or anything. So
Which size chains are what? It's when you're going to the very outer edge of your cut. You said, right?
Yeah, and this is only maybe 15 inches. It's not. It's not a. Yeah, it's not a big thing.
If you're going 1/2 inch deep, sometimes that sled will turn a little sideways, and what's happening is your bit's catching on the top and the bottom. And so your bit, if it's the sled's coming on level just a little bit, that bit will catch and it'll cause you to jump.
Chris, I had a question, Chris. For that issue right there, would he have to adjust the ring? You know how that's for the different size of material? Could that one be one of the issues?
I think you lost him.
Probably so. Casey, I see you nodding. You think that's probably one of the issues?
Well, he says that it happens on directional changes, right?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
I'm wondering if while you're moving, the sled doesn't get to A and then goes to B the next one, and the sled doesn't just jump a little bit because you might have the ring too high or too low. So,
I do have it all the way up. So it needs to be somewhere in between.
well, so here's my little trick, and I mean it's not written in stone or anything, but whatever version you have, some of the versions have the little wing nuts that hold the ring on. What I like to do is I'll loosen those wing nuts all the way around it, and I'll literally run my sled from side to side and then top to bottom. And it will find that ring will kind of center itself where it likes.
Okay.
And then I tighten it all down. And I did that once and I've never had to do it again.
Okay, I will give that a shot. No, I don't have the wing nuts. I've got the new 2021 version, so I've got all the little teeny tiny little nuts and all the bolts and everything else to put in there.
You
So
might go find at your local hardware store. You might find some wing nuts that size, and you can replace them.
okay, I might try that. Yeah, I just went through last night because I was having problems again. I checked everything. I tightened everything down again after it's ran a few times, made sure everything was nice and tight, and then ran it again, and I ran into the same problem. So, all right, I'll try the height of that ring and see if that'll allow me to at least cut that test for the center and give that another shot this weekend.
And for centering jigs.
Yeah.
Is that what I heard?
Yep.
Is it looking for?
Well, I don't have one. I hadn't seen a 3D print of it, so
I sell those if you want. Just instant message me, or what is it, the messenger thing? I sell a set of them, 1/4 inch bit. I can print them for you and then ship them to you.
okay. Yeah, I'll probably send you a message then.
On the Facebook page. the
Facebook.
Group, yeah. Just message me and let me know.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. That was my question for now, so I'll let somebody else chat if they have it. Thank you very much.
All right, the floor is open for anybody else that has any other questions.
Yeah, is there a faster way to replace the thumb film on these things? Never mind. I was joking. 3D printer question.
What are you replacing on that, Drew?
That film on my MSLA trays. I just replaced one yesterday, and then I was going through and calibrated it, and I dropped the torch. I was like, really? I just spent like a half an hour putting a stupid film in. Somebody needs to make a tray for the Mars stuff that is much easier to do a damn film. It's annoying. So it's like 80 screws.
How's the build coming along, Casey?
Which build?
Your whole shop.
It's just about done. I finished the wiring today. Got 120 ran everywhere that I needed to. New boxes, new wiring. Got the walls up, got the insulation up. So she's looking good. Got to go get the in-laws here in a little bit. My daughter's graduating, so
Congrats.
everybody's rolling into town today. So I just finished in time. I went outside and weed eated the yard real quick. Other than that, yeah, it's looking good. Looking good. I think I'm going to redo a little bit of my dust collection piping. I want to be able to have spring-loaded dust collection hose that I can pull down to my work table and then let it go out of the way anytime I want. Something like
That's
that.
what I want so bad. I put the spring-loaded air and I put the spring-loaded power in our series, but I really want spring-loaded suction. That'd be so nice.
Yeah, I did. I want to run some 2-inch pipe around my table here. I got all the PVC, but I'll run some 2-inch pipe or maybe 1.5 inch around my table with a 2-inch port going up to the 4-inch main trunk that goes around the shop. And then I just have to install a blast gate so I can shut it on and off as I want.
Got it.
Oh, hey, Dustin, are you still on here?
I am.
I just saw your post on the owners group.
Yeah.
Take that piece of plastic off.
Okay. I saw that in one of the videos that was putting together. You're talking
Yeah.
about the height adjustment ring, right?
Yep. If you
Okay.
take that off, it will make it a lot easier for you to align, because that clamp, that little adjustment collet, it has a
Mhm.
couple little like nubs that stick down on the bottom side of it, so that it can nest into the router base. If you remove that, it will make it much easier to align everything properly.
Okay. I tried without it at first, and then I went back and reviewed the video, and I saw that when the sled was being put together, the person that was doing that, he had that on the router. Now I've tried it
Gotcha.
both resting on directly on the clamp, and then I've raised it up part way, about 2 inches or so above the clamp, so that I had a little bit more Z-axis movement. And I had the same result regardless of that. So I will take it off, and I will try the centering jig as well. See if that
Okay,
works.
perfect.
Hey, one quick thing about your Fresh Desk forums. There is an option for embedding the video, which I tried to do on that forum, but it stripped the video embed out when it actually did the post.
Okay.
So you might,
We will, and that was on the forum.
yeah, on that Fresh Desk forum.
Okay, I can get with the team and see if that's like a settings issue or something on the back end. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
I tried to then post after that and put the link in, at least for the post, so you can reference it. And it doesn't let somebody post twice in a row, I don't think.
Oh.
I tried it.
Okay.
I tried it 5 minutes after I posted the first one, and then I tried it again this morning, which was about 12 hours later, and it still didn't let me post a second post. So
In the same thread.
in the same thread immediately after my first post.
Weird. Okay. Yeah. No, that sounds something like in a weird like setting or something.
Yeah, it's
We'll-
probably just a setting from Fresh Desk.
Awesome. No, I appreciate the feedback. We'll definitely get that taken care of.
Cool.
I got a question actually. Have any of y'all used damn it, no, I can't find the site. Treat Stock, I think what it was. Yeah, Treat Stock. Have you seen a site? So you can list like, it's like local. They can find people that need jobs 3D printed or like cut with a Maslow. It's I'm on my device, so if I'll pull up, it's TEREATSTOCK.com. And it's where people like y'all can like, Casey, this would be good for you too, is you can list like different services you offer. You can list like machines you have. And so if somebody needs something done like with a Maslow, they can send you the design file and you can cut it for them. It's kind of neat, but you list all the machines. But I don't know if anybody had used it, if it was useful. If I started to list some stuff, but I noticed it because through Tinkercad, if you go, you can send jobs straight through Tinkercad straight to it. It says on Tinkercad, if you go to export, and you say to local printers and local 3D printers in your area, you could it goes through Treat Stock and it finds people that are in your zip code. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So for those of you using Maslows out there to do jobs, it might be something useful for y'all to sign up for. It's free. So
I see with Chris on here. Chris, I just had a quick question for you. Do you know how the soft limits are calculated inside Makerverse or inside?
Yeah, so they're just statically based off of the machine dimensions. I know the Z-axis soft limits are causing some people some trouble. We are working on a revision that will allow you to turn them on and off with ease. The idea is we do not have mechanical limit switches to like prevent catastrophic failure. So the soft limits were a kind of a stab at adding some kind of safety controls for movement, but we know that there's definitely some flaws in that system. So we are revising that to make it much easier for the users to like enable and disable at will.
And that's
I
just
feel-
for that's just for the Z-axis, correct? As far as that one.
Yeah, so the Z-axis. So the X and Y soft limits are calculated off of
Your calibration.
the wasteboard dimensions that you provide when you set up your machine.
Yes.
Is there something that,
So the only way you can modify that is by changing that in the beginning, but that's gonna make your workspace smaller or bigger, correct?
Correct. And then that will be tied to that specific workspace. So if you have, we've seen instances where, hey, I have this one type of material that I'm going to cut. I'm going to kind of cheat the workspace a little bit to accommodate this one material that I use. And I'm going to name that workspace for that side. And then, so like I know a guy that makes arcade cabinets with his M2, and he has a separate workspace set up for the side panels, and then a separate workspace for his, like some of the other components, and it adjusts the soft limit for those specific files that he's running. So you can do it like that, but as far as the Z-axis, it's always going to be persistent across as long as you select that M2 machine type. But I am working on finding a way to make that a little bit more flexible for the end user, either enabling the ability to kind of turn it on and off at will, or allowing the user to tweak the settings kind of on the fly during the calibration process, so that you get the best use out of your Z-axis and much lower headache.
Is there a reliable way to do hardware limit switches on there? Or no,
So
not
the
really?
firmware itself supports it, and we have additional pins available on the Arduino. We have just not gotten to the point where we were working on that. And then, because ultimately in CNC, the majority of your limit switch is going to be in the upward position, with the downward being kind of free to destroy anything that you have on the other side. So we're trying to identify what the best way possible would be to add a mechanical limit switch. But we definitely, the low hanging fruit here is cleaning up that soft limit process in the software for now, and then evaluating the feasibility of a mechanical limit switch in the future.
Yeah, because I was thinking about the other day when I was playing with the laser stuff. I was like, man, how would you do it? There's some things I could think of. I'm like, it wouldn't be very reliable, or it'd be cumbersome and a pain to do mechanical limits with this, except for the upper limits. Or the Z obviously would be easy, but not the X, Y. It's like that's kind of an interesting challenge.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
so that, I guess that brings up a good question, because the very first thing I did was I tried to set up my Z-axis, and I pretty much hit the soft limit immediately, and I've disabled it since then to get it working. But I'm very paranoid about going too high or too low with the like accidentally leaving 100 millimeter travel on my Z-axis and clicking up and having it, try to work its way completely off the sled. So is there a way that I could go in and like manually set the upper limit of my Z-axis by manually screwing it all the way to the very top and then backing it away a couple of turns and saying that's my high limit, and then I can go down from there?
Yes, so there's a way that you can edit it in your workspace settings. In the workspace settings. So if you go to the settings tab in Makerverse and then select workspace, you'll see all of your workspaces that you have created, and all of the values will be broken out. And then you can go in and you can click on the edit button and manually type in some information. And that's really the biggest flaw in the software soft limits for Z-axis is it is making a very broad assumption of where the router clamp is currently positioned at the initialization of the machine. So if your router clamp is all the way at the top, when you first set up your machine, you're going to hit a soft limit because the assumption is that you're at the middle of the traversal, which is
Okay.
not a true reflection of reality.
So,
So that's what we're looking to address is expanding those soft limits to allow full end-to-end travel.
and that's the factory default setup, is that it assumes that the
Correct.
clamp is in the middle of the Z axis.
Yes, that's
Okay.
the goal.
And I think
But,
that's my
you know,
problem is mine
obviously-
was set too high. And when I try to
Yep.
lower it down, it hits the soft limit long before I ever hit the material. That's why I had to turn it off.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So that's what we're working to address with the soft limit stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that makes sense now, Chris, because I was playing around with it on the table here, and I set a work home, and then I even set up a normal home, right? And I set the limits at 30 millimeters. It would go down 30 millimeters. So it would go all the way through my 3/4 inch board. But whenever I raised it, I would bump it up by 10 millimeters, and it went up 95 millimeters. So that would be 30 millimeters off of where the original.
Yeah, no, you should have hit. So if you had it, you set soft limit at 30 or 35.
30.
Okay. Yeah, so it'd be 30 past middle, but that should still have given you should have still hit a soft limit before you reach 90. And that's one of those things where we are definitely working to revise the soft limit stuff. We know that there is some struggle there. And there are some users where it serves its purpose and it prevents them from kind of destroying their machine. But then there's also some very available use cases where the current soft limits are unknowingly preventing people from doing what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it makes sense now. Thanks for the explanation. I got it.
Quick question. Is there a way in the system for the system to register for those soft limits where it registers an increased workload? I know a lot of electronics you can actually do that. You know, as the load increases, the amount of power increases, the amps increase. I didn't know if there was a backfeed in the system that could be built in the future off those motors. It may require new additional cords. I didn't know if they had enough needles on the cords or the pins on the cords to provide that information. I haven't seen the actual software. Because to me, that'd be the easiest way for a system to say it's reached the soft limits on anything, because at the end of that point, you'd be bumping an edge and you would increase. You would have an increase in electrical output.
Yeah.
Go beyond that.
So we have a rotary encoder on the backside of each of the motors that sends those pulses. And a lot of that is we don't get the same feedback as we would from a stepper driver because it's just a rotational motor. But we do get that feedback as far as distance travel. So we're kind of emulating pulses using that rotary encoder. So it will tell us distance traveled. The issue with the soft limits is because we don't have a homing cycle like a traditional CNC, we never have an absolute zero that we can guarantee happens every single time. And then that makes it hard to kind of guess the location of the Z-axis before the job starts.
Right. Okay.
And I do have to say, Rocky Mark.
Oh, yeah, it's been fun down here.
Are you a steward?
Yes, sir.
Nice. I was there from 04 to 07, but I had a deployment in there. I was 464 armor.
Oh, good times. I'm actually off a half right now. I'm running a logistics unit. It's fun times. But, another question, and this is me being just a crybaby, but I'm just curious. Is there any way they could change the software to where you could turn on and off that a really annoying humming coming from the motors?
Unfortunately, no. That is
Put a
the
start and stop switch when you're not using it. That's what I do. That way I don't have to shut the whole thing down. I put a start and stop switch that just kills the power supply to the
No,
to the stuff.
the only reason why I'm bringing it up is before I made my upgrade in the original using ground control and then also using the original Maslow version of Makerverse, it did not make that noise and it ran perfectly fine. And then as soon as I made the upgrade, now the motor started to do the hum or the whatever you want to make that call that noise.
so the do board based control has that hum because we are constantly polling the rotary encoders to
Okay.
properly plot sled position on there. So ground control makes even more assumptions as to where the sled is. And then when you make your movements, it's really updating the software of saying, hey, your sled should be right here, but we don't have a way of actually validating that in real
Okay.
life. And so the way that we kind of combated that with the do-based M2 is we are polling those rotary encoders very frequently to be able to watch the machine move and update
Okay.
its software. So that is unfortunately one of the drawbacks, but there are, like Drew has, where you can cut, or if you can press the sleep button in Makerverse, and that will pause the polling of those motors.
The other thing,
That makes sense.
join the Marine Corps. My hearing was shot by the time I was 22. I can't hear
I mean-
it. The hum is gone, man. Once you or just go out to the range a couple of times, don't wear plugs, and you're good. You'll never hear the humming again.
I mean, I'm with you there. You know, been through that and made those mistakes before, but sometimes it still comes back. And when I was in my garage the other day, I was like, I'm losing my mind hearing this nonstop for the last hour.
So
Yeah. It
I
was
was
really
in a bad
annoying when I was doing the
motorcycle wreck.
calibration.
And so I was in a bad motorcycle wreck and had fractured my skull and fractured the bone down the ear. And so I've had tetanitis for 8 years, 10 years now. And so it's funny because every now and then when I think about it, I'll hear it. But when I don't, my ear rings 24/7. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's only bad when that ringing matches the same pitch as your CNC.
Yeah, exactly.
Lauren,
Now, so,
just
I'm sorry,
turn-
Casey.
Just turn the stereo up, man. That's what I do.
Well, that's what I finally did is I had a little, what do you call it, Amazon like dot thing in there, and I just turned it all the way up. I was like, I can't stand this anymore, but it was what it was. Like I said, I'm crying over nothing. They do something, a potential improvement. I don't know if they can at it. One of the only thing that I liked about ground control over Makerverse was that you could input direct millimeter amounts of movement in without having to scroll through and do one. Now I know Makerverse lets you go into the dialog box and actually type in the exact XY coordinate you want to move your machine to. But there would be times when I just want to move, say, for example, 25 millimeters in a direction. And instead of clicking 10, 10, and 5, it would be ideal just to go to like type in 25 and hit enter, and it would just move that direction.
That text-based control is going to be coming back in version 2 of
Awesome.
Makerverse. So you'll
Okay.
have a Dropbox selection where you can do like a quick select, but we're also going to have it to where you can type a value in, and then if you type, so say you like 25, if you type 25 in and hit jog, it will actually save that 25 to the drop down so that you'll have that increment for like quick recovery in the future. But you'll also be able to just type in about, like, if you know, hey, I need to go 215 millimeters to the left, you'll be able to type that in and hit the jog command and it go the increment that you've typed in.
Awesome. No, that's great.
Hey,
In the new
Chris.
version 2 that's coming out, are you
Yes.
able to cancel a command? So you pull one of those dumbass moves where you think you're moving 5 millimeters and you have 5 inches, or in some cases you want to do 100 millimeters and you do 100 inches accidentally. Can you just hit cancel move? Is there a
So
cancel move?
the struggle with issuing a cancel is G code is a sequential based operation. And the issue is currently within the Gerbil standard that we're using. There's not an interrupt. So if say I can issue it a sequence of 7 commands at a time, but it's going to iterate them in the order that they were received. That is something that we were working on. We were looking at, okay, is there a way that we can hit like a panic button that kills the power to the motors, that prevents it from moving over? And some of those issues is because we're looking for those rotary encoders, and we issued that statement, is there's a potential impact to the end user's calibration. So we're trying to figure out what what's the best of both worlds that doesn't create a scenario where the user has to completely recalibrate their machine every time they have one of those panic moments.
Well,
So
when-
I think let's.
right now during when you're cutting, right, I can just hit pause. If I see it going farther or doing something I don't like it doing during the cut, during the GRVL sequence, I can go ahead and just hit pause.
Yes,
But
and that
where
is
I can't do
because
that,
the G code itself for running a cut is broken up into much smaller chunks, because like an arc is actually broken up into like multiple line segments. So the pause will jump in the middle of those G code commands, but it won't interrupt the travel of one of those G1s that has already been issued.
okay.
So putting that stop button, I bought those stop buttons on Amazon, and I bought a simple one that I plug the shield power supply into it, and then I plug the router into it. So that way it stops the router and it stops the shield, and that's worked well without destroying my calibration if I have to. There's still chances you could screw up calibration, but it works really well because it kills power to the shield, so you're not gonna have to worry about the motors, but it's not killing the Arduino, power to the Arduino. It's still getting commands out, things like that. So you can kill those motor, you can kill the motor. So basically, it's not giving enough power to the stepper drivers, stepper motors to actually be able to pull the sled, and it's not giving enough power to the or it's not giving power to the spindle or to the router. So it's not spinning. That way, you can hit stop in the code without accidentally screwing things up. And so it's that's something that seems to work well. It's for me. Originally, when we did that with the old M1s, it caused major issues with calibration. With M2s, I haven't had issues with calibration so far. There's still a risk for it.
Yeah. Two things I'd like to bring up, and Casey helped me out a lot here, but it would be very nice if this button existed, is to independently turn motors when you're trying to get that real fine calibration. If there could be a button to independently turn motors one at a time, instead of having to do the diagonal back and forth and just edging it in, that'd be very nice, because ground control also had that function. And then just because I've on more than one occasion done the whole silly accidentally click the wrong button, if there could be like, are you a sure button, like when you accidentally close a document and you say, you sure you want to save that? A button like that. So when I accidentally am going to trash to the trash can to start a new G code, to upload a new G code, move on to something else, that I don't accidentally hit reset chains, and now my whole center point is all jacked up. Because I've done that a few times. I think it's called the reset chains, where basically I got to go back instead of, and I actually got to reset the chains when I don't really want to do that. It still knows where home is. There's no issue. Just a few refinement points. I don't know if anybody else has those same issues. I could just be a over aggressive clicker.
For me, the reset chains thing, it's in just a really bad spot.
Agreed. Agreed. It's right there where everything
Right
else
there.
is.
I mean, you go, you get used to going up, scrolling, clicking certain buttons and that. I mean, good, bad, whatever. I mean, it's up to Chris, but just that button location it's in a bad location because it's so easy to accidentally click it than something else, So for me, I just have to, I've done it a couple of times and it was like, you sit there and you cuss and you stomp for a little bit, then you get back to work, you recalibrate it, you start all over. But yeah, just accidentally
It
hit.
ain't so bad. It really ain't so bad. It's just frustrating because when you're counting, when my wife has 15 projects for me to do and I'm counting those minutes till I'm done, till I can do what I want to do. Yeah, it's an extra 5-6 minutes of hanging it back up, resetting those chains, and then also with the fact that you can't independently control motors trying to get it back to the full reset of the chains. It's kind of frustrating.
But the thing is I never use the reset chain thing where you mark the chains, you get it back, and let make reverse remember that. To be honest with you, I skip that whole piece right there because I've done it a couple of times. I had a little mishap to where the chain jumped and I needed to reset the chains. I reset the chains, I realigned everything, and it just didn't work out. So I've never used that. I'm sure it works, but
So do you do the full recalibration?
I mean, we've all done calibration so much that I can buzz through a calibration in no time at all. So when something like that happens, I would rather just not hope that everything is working right and my little marks were just perfect and everything else. I just go ahead and put the chain back on, clear my settings, and all of my settings, I have them written literally on my table in permanent marker, and I go through and just type them all in, just reset the Z, and then I do a quick edge calibration. And as long as my board or nothing's moved, I usually can calibrate back to 1 millimeter of accuracy in 15-20 minutes.
I'm with you. I actually have
I
all my settings sharpied on my Maslow. That way, it's super easy. Every time I recalibrate, it's a sharpied on there. And
Yes, exactly. I was gonna say exactly. So, so is that what you do, Casey? So you take off the sled again and you recalibrate the whole thing again, and the edge calibration, instead of actually, because if you press reset chains, that's fine. Okay, if you have it on if you go back, whenever you do, this is the way I do it and the way I teach people is whenever you first do the calibration, you're doing the whole finding your 12 o'clock, and where it says to mark it, I tell them to turn on the router sometimes, okay, or to put it down, or they can mark it with the Sharpie, like exactly like Drew said, to mark it with a Sharpie. And that's going to be kind of where your resets for that kind of calibration, for that one that you did right there. Does that make sense? So if anything ever happens, you manually could just go there and look for the marks on the chain, or you can just go to that Sharpie, like he said, and just move your bit right there, hit reset chains, and you don't have to do the whole calibration again. Does that make sense? Am I correct, Chris?
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's the correct way. I've done it both ways personally. I know I'm not Chris, but
everyone's different.
But honestly, like I have all my calibration stuff saved in just a Word document on my desktop, so I can quickly just pop it back together. But at the same token, I've had really good luck with the reset chains. I've just gotten very fast at doing the diagonal method once Casey taught me of getting them back locked in. And I mean, it's every time it gets back to almost perfect as far as all my cuts. And I usually test them with a circle. And if I'm within, and I've done 20-inch circles, 24-inch circles, and they're within less than 2 millimeters of any direction. They're very, very tight tolerances on the circles. It's obviously the hardest shape to cut in a CNC.
What size are the circles that you're doing? I mean, like thickness.
So usually on my test, I usually just do a cheap piece of like wainscoting board. I got just a bunch of it that was given to me, so I'll just throw it on the CNC when I'm doing my test, because I can do the full cut in one pass, because it's only like 0.2 inches thick. But yeah, I just do my test those ways, and then I can actually measure it out. But I don't know. I've had very good luck with the reset chains. I really have. But Yeah, I don't know. I can see there's different methods.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that Mike, this is kind of that cheat thing. I made y'all's M300X 1,000 times better. Look at that. I glued a USB drive to the front of it. See if you fix those little things. Anyway, no, you're right though. Those chains, but I'm also with Casey. I've recalibrated so many times now. I can calibrate my sleeve, so it's kind of like it's just part of it. Once you get down, it sounds like you've got down so fast too.
Yeah, and I get quite a few people that ask me about, using the chain reset and stuff. I give them that procedure. I tell them how, how it's done. But the other side is what I've found, and like I said, I've tried it 2 or 3 times. I go ahead and hit the chain reset, and then I will go through and do an edge calibration just to see how close I am back to where I originally was. Because again, I do a lot of furniture and things. I need to be pretty tight on my tolerances. And I'll do an edge calibration. I go from 1 millimeter to 3 millimeters. So it gets it back in the ballpark really close, but it still wasn't as good as the original calibration was. So in my engineering idiot mind, I just, it's not close enough. I'm just going to redo it. So I just redo it, run with it. And I know whenever I go back to make the next piece, I'm back at 1 millimeter. That's just kind of the way I prefer to do it.
Yeah, one thing I did do. Yeah, one thing I did do to my chains that I've really liked, I don't know if anybody else has done it, is I literally took a permanent marker, and every 10 links, I marked off the 10 links, every one of them, so I can quickly count if I have to adjust chains or anything like that. It's a very quick count to get everything back to very close to center.
I'm with you. Do it different colors though too, so that way you don't have to count dashes on both sides. So what I do is I do black, red, blue,
right,
and then that way it makes it super easy. So like 10 is black, and then 20 is red, and then 30 is blue, and that way it makes it, it does make it a ton easier. It's funny what you were saying with calibration, Casey. So I worked for a German firm for a while, and I spent a lot of time in Germany, and they were so like precise on every little thing. And obviously, I am not that guy. I am the rough. I'm definitely the jarhead in that sense. Rough and just make it happen. And they drove me so crazy because when we were calibrating things and all that, they're like, "No, but it's a thousandth of a millimeter." Like, don't even go within near that. Why do you care? And they're like, "But it has to be." Like, they drove me back. They were both ready to kill each other after 3 months.
Yeah, a lot of my engineering in the R&D, I work for the companies that I contract out to and stuff. I mean, we're talking about thousands, 10 thousandths of 10 thousandths of an inch in clearance on, slide blocks, degradation and stuff. It just, I'm used to really tight tolerances. So to me, 1 millimeter is sloppy. I mean, 1 millimeter is, but for the stuff that I build, it's more than sufficient. So I don't need, I could invest $5,000 in a new
It's
table
12
saw
o'clock.
and get those tolerances if I wanted to, but you don't need to, right? It's just what is the need? Does it require that tight of tolerances? And it doesn't. So woodworking is pretty forgiving. So
There's some things I have. They're like where I do the SLA, I need like a tenth. I need 1/10 of a millimeter, but that's about it. And we've seen projects where it's like they have hundreds or thousands of tolerances. I'm like, I'm not even touching those. Like, you're good luck. I'm staying the hell away from that. So.
Yeah, you need really tight CNC machines to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, even if you have time, like I have the big ones out there, but they can do that. They can do millions. And it's just the problem is you got to maintain this machine just right. You got to have your machine. It's not just like, hey, you have a machine that can do it. It means that machine's been constantly maintained in a way that can handle those tolerances. So just
way more work than a maker made and way more expensive.
Yeah.
Plus, woodworking doesn't work well at that kind of tolerance. Like,
no,
you cut something that perfectly, try to press fit it together, you're gonna be there with a hammer and you're gonna end up busting the end of your wood. It's not worth it.
Yeah, because I can't even think of MDF. You can't even get that. You couldn't even like a 1/10 of a millimeter is probably as really tight for even like really good high grade MDF.
1 millimeter is perfect. If you got something within 1 millimeter, it slides together like a glove. you'll never, I mean, you might see the line barely, but especially if you glue it up, it's gonna disappear completely.
That's what they make sandpaper for, man.
Yeah, exactly. There's a little bit in it, and 1 millimeter is not that much sanding.
Nope.
This is kind of fun. We've been doing these little puzzle boxes, little labyrinth boxes. And this one's driving me crazy because this has this one is like a 10th it's 1 millimeter tolerance, but it's too much slop, just driving me crazy. So this one I want, but because they're inside, it's got the one side has the little knob and one side, and then you try to unlock them, but they're fun. They're on Thingiverse. But yeah, this one's got a millimeter slop, and it's just, that one is driving me crazy because it can skip between grooves. I'm like, no. That takes the whole problem away.
All right, guys, I have to drop off. I have to go pick up.
I'll see y'all.
Yeah, likewise. If anybody else has any questions, we're about to get off.
All right, appreciate
Have a
it.
good one.
Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.